I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk to folks from the VTuber community about their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. Melody Bear joins us. Melody, would you please introduce yourself to everybody?
Uh, Hi, I am Melody Bear. I am a teddy bear VTuber, or PNG tuber technically, and a singer.
And a
And
singer. Yeah.
yeah.
Have you been able to put some covers out there?
I have not. Unfortunately, when I'm making covers, I'm doing all the recording and all the mixing by myself, and I'm still learning.
Yeah. Sometimes people have the talent and then have to figure out all the details around it. I'm not one of those. I have neither. So I just hire people out to do this stuff. But when how long have you been VTubing?
I've been VTubing for a good couple months now, since I think the end of September.
Hmm. And why did you get started?
Uh, well, I've been a VTuber fan for a long time.
Hmm.
And even before that, I was always watching like gaming YouTubers,
Right.
and I figured, you know what? Why not give it a try?
Well, you've been able to jump in pretty successfully right away. And the last couple of months, have you been able to keep things going pretty smoothly?
I've been able to keep things going pretty smoothly. It took a little while, a couple weeks to really get stuff figured out,
Yeah.
but after that, things have been going pretty great.
Have you been someone who's always kind of been a performer?
Oh yeah, I've been performing in theater and choir since I was really little.
Yeah. So you've been out there in front of a stage in front of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't deal with that. I could be behind a microphone with thousands of people listening. I get in front of people like 10 people and I just freeze up. So that takes a lot of courage as far as I'm concerned. And then to kind of transition that into this, it certainly is a different type of audience, isn't it?
It really is. Well, part of it's just the interactive bit. I'm not particularly used to having to interact with an audience as much as streaming requires.
Hmm. And have you been able to get a little more comfortable with that?
I am getting a little more comfortable with that. Uh I'm definitely still learning. I have to remember stuff like to read chat messages out loud before I answer them.
It's the old interviewer thing. You get somebody on a radio interview and in the studio with you and ask a question and they answer by nodding their head. Said, no, that's not going to
Yep.
work. I need some audio from that, please. But with the using a model, are you playing a is that mostly you out there, or are you stepping into a different character?
I'd say it's definitely a little bit of both. I built my character sort of after myself so that I wouldn't have to be acting the whole time, but there's definitely like I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm on stream. I'm not just like it's very different than if I were just in a regular conversation.
Oh yeah, it is. It is very different, and you are able to do, in my guesstimation, able to do a few different things that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe take a couple more risks that you wouldn't be comfortable with if it was just yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
You get to do it, but it's still, I think, anybody who gets on in front of a potentially worldwide audience and puts their talents out there and puts out attempts to entertain people certainly takes a little bit of courage. Is this something that you had very early growing up?
Uh, I've never really I know that stage fright is a super common thing, but I've never struggled with it at all. It might just be that I started performing so young,
Hmm.
so I never really had the chance to develop stage fright, but I've honestly never had a problem with it.
Well, that's a good thing. Get out there and at least have that. Is it a little different now when you don't see your audience?
It is definitely a little different. I can't like if you're giving a speech, you can sort of tailor how you present yourself to your audience's reactions.
Right.
It's a lot more difficult to do that when you can't see your audience's faces.
Yeah, it is, and it goes the other way around too. I've seen I can very easily talk to people like this. Um, whether I'm just talking on the phone or just talking one to one in an interview or talking in a studio without seeing my audience. Now you get me in front of an audience, and now I'm very conscious of what I'm saying and trying not more, being less myself and trying more not to make a mistake. So you kind of got it the other way around.
Yeah.
You're
I
more
do kind of have it the other way around, I'd
yeah,
say.
yeah. So you're more used to having that group out there, and you're more comfortable with it. That's interesting. I envy you that because it scares me to death getting in front of folks. When you first got on and made your first uh, VTube experience, how did it go? How were you feeling? Uh, was it what you thought it would be?
Um, from the purely technical side, it was kind of a mess because I didn't do my research beforehand. I just kind of jumped in the deep end and had to figure it out as I went.
Yeah, but
But
as
from an actual like a performance perspective, it felt really good. It's been uh I haven't really performed on I haven't really been on stage since I think the end of high school.
uh-huh.
So it was kind of nice to return to that.
Yeah, and once you got on it, it was kind of like riding a bike, maybe.
Yeah.
And you got a little more. You said, "Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do," and you kind of settled into it as you went along.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's good anyway. At least you got comfortable with it pretty quick. Are there still aspects of it that don't make you very comfortable?
The technical side of things,
Mm,
still not great at. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do out there, and I feel like I'm a lot of times I'm working with just the simplest setup possible so I don't have to deal with all those unknown variables.
right. Yeah, I can understand that. That's where I'm still just kind of getting started in this myself, and I've got some rubber bands and scotch tape holding some things together. uh,
Oh
the
yeah.
the technical isn't going to catch up with me anytime soon, but uh, the I can certainly understand that. Now, once you've got started and your channel's going strong, what do you like to do on a particular stream? What are the things you like to put out to the audience?
Uh I like playing games. I try and play a lot of indie games, stuff I feel like the people watching me wouldn't have seen before from other creators.
Hmm. And other types of something that's a little off the beaten path for people.
Yeah.
Hmm. And would you rather be on there by yourself, or have you done a lot of collaboration?
Uh, I've only really done one collab so far,
Hmm.
and that's just because they're awful to set up, just trying to get scheduled and getting everything set up on everyone's end.
Well, I can imagine that. I've putting together internet interview schedules, and luckily my sleep schedule is right in the garbage can, so I can do it anytime for anybody. But for someone who's trying to, I mean, you could be collaborating with someone who lives on the other side of the planet, and now you've got to figure out how to get that together and make sure they have the right game version and all that stuff. That could be really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did really enjoy the collaboration I've done, and I'd love to do more in the future. It's just there's something that takes a lot of planning.
yeah, it does. And what about even getting the people to collaborate with you? Have been able to expand your network and get a few folks who maybe you could rely on to do that in the future?
I've met a couple of really great people through streaming.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I have a huge network. I know that there are a lot of VTubers out there who can have someone to collab with them at just like any time they want to,
Hmm.
and I'm definitely not there yet.
Now
But I
it,
have met a couple of amazing people.
it takes a little while. Nowadays, I see people really putting themselves out there to try to get a collaboration or some type of network, and I also see those people get burnt by not doing their research enough. I wouldn't want to have somebody on that that I'm going to rely on to help my audience that I didn't know a little bit about in the background. It also takes some research into who you're talking to.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to collaborate with someone who I've never really played games with or talked with before because you just don't know how to well, you don't really know how to work with them, if that makes any
It
sense.
makes a lot of sense, especially in what you're doing. It's a lot. It's for folks who are listening to Eric. Eric, you're talking to people that you don't know across the globe. My situation is different in a lot of ways in that I don't know Melody from she walked up to me and said here's $100. I say thank you. I don't know who you are. If you like to do that, Melody, I'd appreciate it. But the thing is with me is we're doing this on a recording. So if I were to talk to somebody and they turned out to be just, a horrible, horrible person, I wouldn't put it on the air. What you got the situation is you're live with somebody and you're kind of at their mercy. Uh, they're probably streaming at the same time. They're trying to get their audience up, and sometimes it can be at the expense of you and your audience.
Yeah, totally. I've been well, the one collab I've done, neither of the other two people were streaming,
Hmm.
and so I feel like that was probably a good way to start.
Yeah, yeah. A good way to get your toe in the water, and
Yeah.
and then kind of go from there. Now, you mentioned singing. Uh, do you is that something you'd want to expand on this year? Maybe a karaoke type segments, or eventually when you get to the equipment and programs necessary to do a cover or two?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've already done a couple of karaoke streams.
Hmm.
They're they're not as interactive, I feel like, as playing games,
Right.
but I really love to do them.
Well, you say that's something I appreciate a lot. Could not do. I haven't hit a note since my voice changed in high school. At a note on purpose, anyway, for any period of time. And but again, that's another type of artistry that really does put your neck out on the block. To be able to do that and see here, I'm doing this for you, uh, and then wait and see how people respond to that. I think takes a lot of courage. I really do. I'm amazed that people are able to do it. But you've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, I think one of the first streams I ever did was karaoke, I think.
Yeah. So how did what type of response did you get from that? And were you satisfied with it when you were able to do it?
Oh yeah, I've had nothing but a really honestly incredible positive response whenever I do karaoke,
Oh,
and that's always great to see.
yeah, that's
And
that
then
that's big for your ego.
yeah.
Yeah, and the response that you get, the positive feedback from any type of artistic performance, whether it's a karaoke performance or whether you're out there playing games for folks, as very um, fulfilling. I think that's the best way to put it. Am I right on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
It's something that I hadn't expected going into this, but that I really appreciate.
and it's going to be different every time you go out there too. If you're in a play or you're in a musical or something on stage, you know what your part is going to be every night. You know what your lines are going to be. You know what your songs are going to be. Here, it's almost like improv. Every night you don't know maybe the game you're going to play, but you don't know how that's going to go. You don't know how chat's going to respond to it, and you've got to be very agile.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Honestly, at least in the context of karaoke streams,
Hmm.
it's been a lot easier for me to do that than to do a cover because I am a complete perfectionist.
Oh.
And so just being able to just do it live and it's over with, you can't change it, I
Hmm.
feel like is actually a little bit easier for me because then I'm not going back and recording something 16 million times over to get it perfect.
Oh, gee. Back in my radio days, you would have used all the studio time. We'd never get anything done. You'd be in there doing a commercial, and then a 30-second commercial, and because something was not quite right, it would take you 2 hours, and nobody else would be able to get in the studio.
Oh yeah.
That's now what you'd end up with is a great commercial, but nobody else will get any work done. But that's the way some people are, and I can appreciate wanting to be as good as possible. Have you been able to uh, satisfy that by going on live without a net?
I would say so, definitely. Like when I'm when I'm live, it's always how am I going to react to this next thing? There's very little sort of uh space left to worry about what I've already done.
Mm-hmm. Well, so when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You don't take it over to the next stream or worry about it once you've got it. You've got to shut down and the microphone's off. That's not something that carries on.
Well, it's I've definitely had a stream or two where I've worried about it a little after like everything's shut off,
Mm-hmm.
but I make an effort to not carry that over to the next stream. Like even if it isn't necessarily new people, each stream for me is a chance to do something new.
Now, are you working with YouTube at all?
Uh, so I'm mostly streaming on Twitch right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using YouTube as sort of an archive
Right.
of my streams, but I'm not going back and really editing much beyond like thumbnails.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know that folks are using it as a marketing tool, and along with X, Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. Have you gotten to the point now where you started to think about trying to market your brand?
Uh, I'd say a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I want to how do I phrase this? I think that like clipping yourself and using that as a marketing tool is super powerful, but I don't really feel like it fits me, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes any sense.
Certainly, certainly makes sense. Again, it's all got to be contoured to not only what you want to do out of your channel, to you yourself. If you put out something out there that's not really reflective of your content, it doesn't really help you as far as marketing goes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like catfishing, or what do they call it with uh, thumbnails that don't represent what's going on? Um, it really
Clickbaiting?
clickbaiting. That's right. Old men can't catch up with that sort of thing. But yeah, it really does go to that. So they'll tune in, they'll not get what they expected, and your chances of retaining those people are a little bit less. It
Yeah.
Yeah, the better, the more you reflect what you're doing, the better. And so far, what you're doing seems pretty good. How has the growth been for you? Is that something you've been paying attention to?
Uh, I'm not I have been paying attention to growth a little bit. Like I'm definitely looking at my Twitch analytics and stuff,
Right.
but I'm not interested in trying to force growth. I feel like the best kind of growth is when people discover me and they want to stay. They're not staying because
Right. Yeah, I think
they're
that
not staying because they're expecting something from me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it's a very sensible way to do it. Um, sometimes some people just fall into it, and you go from there. But if you get the groundswell going, you build up a good foundation of people who come out to the stream every time. Sooner or later, that's going to click, and you're going to get more and more people come who want to see what you do.
I definitely hope so.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. Now, coming to this new year, what do you want to do? What games would you like to play? Um, what are you playing right now online?
Right now I'm working on Inscription,
Hmm.
which is a really cool sort of card game.
Hmm.
It's hard to describe it without sort of spoiling what makes the game so good.
Yeah. It is a situation where you have to collect types of cards to advance and not only just advance the game but to improve your character.
Not exactly.
Hmm.
It's the gameplay is similar to like a playing card game. You have a deck of cards
Hmm.
and you have to battle against someone using similar cards.
Oh, kind of a
So like
strategy.
one of the cards, for example, is like like you can play a wolf, and the wolf is high attack power but low health.
Yes. Oh,
Or you can play a turtle, which is the exact opposite, low attack power but really good defensive capability.
mm. So it involves a lot of strategy.
I'd say so, yeah.
Wow. I think that goes. Okay, we'll watch that. That's on your streams right now. What are some games in the
Yes.
future would you like to be working on stream?
There are. I kind of go with the flow. I see what I stumble across. Is one I've played before, but I felt I wanted more people to see it.
Hmm.
So I felt like that was a good one to play on stream.
Hmm.
But I follow as many indie game developers as I can, and I try and follow other creators who focus on indie games to try and see, what's out there that not a lot of people would have heard of or seen yet.
Yeah. So if you want to look for some indie games, something different from the mainstream, check out what Melody Bear has to offer, and not only will you get a delightful host, but you'll get a chance to take a look at some games maybe you haven't heard of that you want to play in the future. For folks who want to see you in action on your streams, when do you stream?
I am currently a college student, a full-time college student, so my streaming schedule can be a little inconsistent,
Hmm.
but I try and do almost always I make Wednesdays and Fridays at around 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's Mountain Standard Time was the time. I've grown up in the 70s and 80s, and we didn't really never understand. We'd always
Hmm.
get
We're
Central, you always get Eastern, Central, and Pacific time, and then there's Mountain time too. But yeah, it's that's going to be 1 hour earlier than Central Time U.S. and 1 hour later than Pacific Time U.S. For those who
Yeah.
don't know, and then just catch and see what she has to offer. How about on X Twitter? Do you have an account set up there?
I do have an account set up there. Uh I don't use it too much, or at least not to the frequency I've seen a lot of other people use it.
Hmm.
I'll repost things that I find make good points, or I'll retweet if my friends post like they're streaming or something. I'll retweet that.
Well, for folks who really want to get to know what's going on, check out Melody Bear on Twitter. I'm sorry, on Twitch, and you'll get all the account information there. And check out when she's streaming. A delightful person who best specializes in the indie games, but you're going to hear some singing too, and you're going to enjoy yourself when you check out what Melody Bear has to offer. Melody, I thank you for coming on. Um, 20
Yeah, thank you so
minutes
much for having me.
20 minutes zing right by when you're talking to someone who's as interesting as you are, and I do appreciate it. Folks, again, check out what Melody has to offer, and thanks for coming on. Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.